The alien's flesh sizzled as the plasma bolt struck, the smell of charred meat filling the air. A brutal reminder that the Ladosians had just murdered the only person Craig Davis had ever loved, not knowing that he was no mere man, but a super soldier forged in the hellfire of 1,000 wars. In a seedy bar on the outskirts of Zeta Station, two Ladosian raiders, Niran and Zorak, huddled over their drinks. The acrid stench of fear hung heavy as they recounted their disastrous encounter. One damned human slaughtered our entire crew," Niran snarled, slamming his fist on the grimy table. "It defies belief." Zorak leaned in close, his grizzled face illuminated by the bar's flickering light. That was the butcher of Zargon Prime himself, Craig Davis. We were fools to cross his path. "Oh, he's real, and we just gave him a reason to unleash hell," Zorak replied grimly. "Our crew killed his daughter, blasted her medical ship into stardust." Niran's heart sank. They had massacred an innocent, the child of the most fearsome warrior in the galaxy. Regret and terror consumed him. "Ancestors save us," Niran croaked. "Why was the butcher's daughter out here in this lawless void?" Stubborn like her father, took after him. Zorak drained his glass. "Leading a mission of mercy to the outer rim. Davis warned her of the dangers. Now he'll drown entire worlds in blood to avenge her." A cold dread gripped Niran. The full weight of the unholy wrath they had brought upon themselves crashed down. The humans would stop at nothing to eradicate their entire species for this transgression. Niran's eyes darted to the bar's exits, as if expecting Davis to burst in any moment, a vengeful spectre of death. What can we do? How can we survive the onslaught to come? Zorak's gaze hardened, a man resigned to his fate. We can't. Our only hope was that he would never find us. Now we've given him a reason to scour the galaxy and beyond to exterminate us. When he comes, and he will come, we'll beg for the mercy of a quick death, a mercy I fear he has long forgotten. Niran and Zorak rushed out of the seedy bar, their hearts hammering against their chests. The air felt heavy with the weight of their sins and the looming spectre of retribution. As they navigated the dimly lit corridors of Zeta Station, Niran's thoughts spiraled out of control. "Zorak, what kind of demon have we unleashed?" Niran asked, his voice trembling. "Who is this Craig Davis?" Zorak glanced around furtively, as if expecting the butcher himself to materialize from the shadows. "They say he's a product of some secret human military project, a super soldier, engineered to be faster, stronger, and smarter than any normal human." Niran's brow furrowed as he tried to recall the details of the war against the Zargonians. "But I thought the humans were on the brink of defeat in that conflict. What turned the tide?" Zorak leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Davis did. He infiltrated the Zargonian High Command, took out their leaders, and sabotaged their defenses from within. By the time the human fleet arrived, the Zargonians were in complete disarray. They didn't stand a chance against the onslaught that followed." Niran shook his head in disbelief. "One man accomplished all that. It seems impossible." A dark chuckle escaped Zorak's lips. "That's the thing about humans, Niran. They specialize in the impossible. When their backs are against the wall and everything they hold dear is threatened, they find a way to fight back. And may the ancestors have mercy on anyone foolish enough to stand in their way." As they reached the hangar bay where their battered ship awaited, a sense of impending doom settled over Niran like a suffocating blanket. "Do you think Davis knows it was us? That we're the ones who killed his daughter?" Zorak paused, his hand hovering over the ignition switch. "I'd bet my last credit on it. Men like Davis, they have a sixth sense for these things, and if he doesn't know now, he will soon enough. We need to disappear, Niran. Find a corner of the galaxy so remote that even the butcher himself couldn't track us down." With a heavy heart, Niran nodded in agreement. As their ship blasted off into the starry void, he could only pray that the vast expanse of the cosmos would prove sufficient to shield them from the vengeful wrath of Craig Davis. Days bled into weeks, as Niran and Zorak hopscotched from one star system to the next, constantly glancing over their shoulders, paranoia their constant companion. They took whatever work they could find, mercenary jobs that kept them off the grid and out of sight. Anything to stay one step ahead of the butcher's relentless pursuit. In a dingy bar on some backwater planet, Niran nursed a drink, the weight of their predicament bearing down on him like a collapsing star. He looked up at Zorak, desperation etched in the lines of his face. "Do you think we'll ever be safe? That Davis will just give up?" Zorak sighed, his eyes haunted by the spectre of the human's vengeance. He shook his head. "You don't know much about humans, do you, Niran? They're relentless, especially when it comes to family. Davis won't stop. Not until he's found us, or until he's dead. And I wouldn't bet on the latter." Niran slumped in his seat, the futility of their situation crashing over him like a tidal wave. "I've heard the stories about human vengeance, but I never thought I'd be on the receiving end. What makes them so damn persistent?" Zorak leaned in, his voice low and grave, the weight of his words settling like a stone in Niran's gut. "It's not just about vengeance, Niran. For humans, it's about justice. They have this unwavering belief in right and wrong, in holding people accountable for their actions. It's what makes them such formidable allies and terrifying enemies." Niran frowned, trying to wrap his head around the concept. It seemed so foreign, so alien. "But we didn't know. We didn't know Davis's daughter was on that ship. It was an accident, a mistake. Surely he must understand that." Zorak shook his head, a bitter chuckle escaping his lips. "Doesn't matter to him. In his eyes, we're responsible. We pulled the trigger, and now we have to face the consequences." Niran drained his glass, the bitter taste of regret and fear lingering on his tongue. "So what do we do? How do we make this right?" Zorak stood, tossing a few credits on the table. His eyes were hard, resigned to their fate. "We can't, Niran. The only thing we can do is keep running and hope that maybe, just maybe, Davis's thirst for justice will lead him down a different path." As they left the bar and melted into the crowded streets, Niran couldn't shake the feeling that their fate was already sealed, that no matter how far they ran, no matter how deep they buried themselves, the relentless pursuit of Craig Davis would eventually catch up to them. It was only a matter of time. The weight of their sins pressed down on Niran's shoulders as they navigated the teeming mass of humanity. The sounds and smells of the alien city faded into the background, drowned out by the pounding of his own heart. He glanced at Zorak, seeing the same fear, the same resignation mirrored in his eyes. "I never understood humans," Niran said, his voice barely audible over the din of the crowd. "Their capacity for both compassion and ruthlessness. It's like they're two sides of the same coin." Zorak nodded, his gaze distant, lost in thought. "That's what makes them so dangerous. They'll move heaven and earth to protect the ones they love, and they'll tear the universe apart to avenge them. We never stood a chance." Niran's heart clenched, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow. The realization of just how badly they'd miscalculated, of the unstoppable force they'd unleashed, hit him like a punch to the gut. They were ants in the path of a hurricane, powerless to stop the coming storm. As they boarded their ship, the familiar hum of the engines doing little to calm Niran's frayed nerves, he couldn't help but wonder if there was any corner of the galaxy far enough, any hole deep enough, to escape the wrath of Craig Davis. The butcher of Zargon Prime, the human who had become a living nightmare for any who dared cross him. Niran strapped himself into his seat, his hands shaking as he gripped the armrests. Beside him, Zorak's face was a mask of grim determination, his knuckles white on the controls. They were two condemned men, racing against the clock, against the inexorable tide of human vengeance. As the ship lifted off, the city falling away beneath them, Niran closed his eyes, a silent prayer on his lips, a prayer for mercy, for absolution, for a miracle that he knew deep down would never come. For in the eyes of Craig Davis, there could be no mercy, no forgiveness, only justice, cold and unyielding as the void of space itself. The dusty landscape of the remote mining colony stretched out before Niran and Zorak as they made their nightly rounds. The monotony of their new life as security guards was a welcome reprieve from the constant fear and paranoia that had plagued them for months. As they walked the perimeter of the complex, their boots crunching on the rocky terrain, Niran's mind wandered back to the events that had brought them to this point. "Hey, Zorak," Niran said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. "I've been thinking about Davis and his daughter. Something about the whole situation doesn't sit right with me." Zorak glanced at his partner, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Niran paused, gathering his thoughts. "Well, from what you've told me, Davis was this unstoppable force during the Zargonian War, right? A one-man army. So why wasn't he there to protect his daughter? Why let her go on that dangerous mission in the first place?" Zorak considered the question, his brow furrowing. "You know, I've wondered about that myself. From what I heard, Davis was dead set against it from the start. He begged his daughter not to go, even threatened to pull some strings to have her reassigned. But she wouldn't budge. Said she had a duty to help those in need." Niran shook his head, perplexed. So what made him change his mind? Why give in? Zorak shrugged, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Hard to say for sure, but there are rumors. Some say she convinced him it was the right thing to do, that even a super soldier like him couldn't protect everyone all the time. Others say he cut a deal with the brass, agreed to take on some hush-hush mission in exchange for his daughter's safety." Niran's eyes widened, his interest piqued. A secret mission? What kind of mission? A chill ran down Niran's spine as the implications of Zorak's words sank in. "So you're saying that us killing Davis's daughter might have thrown a wrench into something bigger? Something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy?" Zorak nodded, his expression grim. "It's possible, and if that's the case, we might have more than just Davis to worry about. We might have just painted a bullseye on our backs for every major player in the game." Niran fell silent, the weight of their situation pressing down on him like a physical force. The thought that their actions might have inadvertently set in motion a chain of events that could reshape the galaxy was almost too much to bear. As they continued their patrol, the vast expanse of the stars above them suddenly felt much colder and more foreboding than ever before. As the weight of their predicament bore down on Niran and Zorak, the shrill wail of alarms shattered the tense silence. They bolted to the security control room, their hearts pounding in sync with the klaxons. The screens before them flickered to life, revealing a scene of utter chaos. Armed intruders swarmed the mining complex, their weapons flashing in the dim light. Niran gripped the console, his knuckles pale. "Is it Davis? Has he tracked us down at last?" Zorak shook his head. His eyes narrowed as he studied the unfolding carnage. "No, this isn't the butcher's handiwork. He strikes with surgical precision, a lone wolf. This is something else entirely." A message flared across the screens, bold and uncompromising. "Attention all personnel. This facility is now under the control of the Galactic Liberation Front. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." Zorak's expression hardened. "It appears they've been busy, and I fear this is merely the opening salvo in a much larger campaign." Confusion and fear warred in Niran's eyes. But why target a mining colony? What could they possibly hope to gain? Zorak sighed, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. "It's not about the mine itself, Niran. It's about what lies beneath, those whispers I shared with you, the clandestine mission that occupied Davis when tragedy befell his daughter." Niran nodded, his pulse quickening. "I suspect we've stumbled upon a fragment of that very puzzle. This mine, it's a facade, a veil concealing something of immense value, something the GLF is willing to risk everything to acquire." Niran's mind reeled, the implications staggering. "What do we do, Zorak? Stand and fight, surrender, cut our losses and run?" Zorak checked his weapon, resolve etched into the lines of his face. "We hold the line, Niran. We safeguard the mine and the secrets it guards, no matter the cost, and we pray that Davis remains fixated on our trail, blind to the true stakes at play." As the first tremors of battle shook the compound, Niran and Zorak braced themselves for the fight of their lives. They knew with grim certainty that their actions in the coming hours could reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. And through it all, The spectre of Craig Davis loomed, an implacable force of nature, relentless in his pursuit of justice. Niran and Zorak sat on the dusty floor of the bunker, the echoes of distant explosions reverberating through the walls. Niran wrapped a bandage around his thigh, wincing as the fabric touched the raw edges of the blaster wound. "Zorak, I've got a question. This mine, this secret project, why not just cut our losses? Why stay and fight?" Zorak grimaced as he applied the healing salve to his arm. "Sometimes the cover's as valuable as the secret. If the GLF gets a toehold here, they'll spread like a plague." "But is any secret worth this many lives?" Niran asked, gesturing at the blood-stained walls. "In this galaxy, could be. Heard tales from the Zargon campaign about something the humans dug up, something old, something powerful." Niran's eyes grew wide. "Here, in this mine?" "Adds up, don't it? Davis's hush-hush mission, the big push into this sector, GLF sniffing around, it's all tied together." "So that's it then? We're just cogs in the machine, expendable." Zorak let out a harsh laugh. "Ain't that the truth of this verse, kid? Best we can do is try to stay ahead of the game." Niran shook his head, the weight of it all pressing down on him. "And if Davis puts it together? If he tracks this secret here?" Zorak's face hardened. "Then the galaxy best brace itself. Humans'll tear the stars apart for what's theirs. And if that girl's death leads back here, Davis'll shred this place down to atoms to get answers." The stale air of the bunker hung heavy as Niran slumped against the cold metal wall, his stomach growling with hunger. He glanced over at Zorak, who sat on a crate, methodically cleaning his blaster for the 100th time. The monotony of their confinement was broken only by the distant echoes of the GLF patrols above, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond their sanctuary. Niran sighed, his mind wandering to the events that had brought them to this point. The weight of their actions, the consequences of their choices, seemed to press down on him like a physical force. He turned to Zorak, a question burning in his mind. "Zorak, I've been thinking about Davis, the butcher of Zargon Prime, the man who strikes fear into the hearts of the galaxy's most hardened warriors. What's he really like, as a person, I mean?" Zorak paused, setting his blaster aside. He leaned back, his eyes taking on a distant look as he delved into his memories. "I met him once, years ago, before he became the legend he is now. It was just after the Zargonian War, and I was part of a delegation sent to negotiate a treaty with the humans." Niran leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. What was he like then? Zorak's brow furrowed as he searched for the right words. Intense, focused. You could tell the war had taken a toll on him, that he'd seen and done things no one should have to. But there was something else, too. A sense of purpose, of duty. Like he knew his actions, no matter how brutal, served a greater good. Niran nodded slowly, trying to reconcile this image with the relentless pursuer he knew Davis to be. And now, after losing his daughter, what do you think drives him? Zorak's shoulders sagged, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Grief, anger, a thirst for justice. I can't even imagine the pain he must be feeling. To have all that power, all that skill, and still be unable to protect the one you love most. It's enough to break even the strongest of men. Niran felt a surge of guilt, the realization of their role in Davis's transformation hitting him like a physical blow. In a way, we're responsible, aren't we? Not just for his daughter's death, but for creating the very monster that now hunts us. Zorak met Niran's gaze, his expression grim. Yes, we set him on this path, and now we must face the consequences. But there's something else you need to understand about humans, Niran. They have an incredible capacity for forgiveness, for redemption. If we can find a way to make this right, to help Davis uncover the truth behind his daughter's death and bring those responsible to justice, maybe, just maybe, we can find a way out of this mess. Niran leaned back, his mind reeling with the possibilities. But how? We're trapped down here with no way to contact the outside world, and the GLF controlling the mine above. A glint of determination flashed in Zorak's eyes. We bide our time, gather what information we can, and when the moment is right, we make our move. One way or another, we'll find a way to set things right, not just for ourselves, but for Davis and his daughter as well. Niran nodded, a newfound sense of purpose taking root in his heart. They had a long road ahead of them, a path fraught with danger and uncertainty, but for the first time since their fateful encounter with Davis's daughter, he felt a glimmer of hope. A chance, however slim, to make amends and find redemption in the eyes of the man they had wronged. The sound of footsteps echoed through the bunker, drawing their attention to the entrance. Zorak grabbed his blaster, motioning for Niran to take cover. They waited, hearts pounding, as the footsteps grew closer, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. The staccato bark of gunfire echoed through the cramped confines of the bunker. Niran flinched at each sharp report, his heart hammering against his ribs. He turned to Zorak, eyes wide with fear. Zorak cocked his head, listening intently to the chaos unfolding above. His brow furrowed as he tried to make sense of the unfamiliar sounds. "That's not the GLF," he said, his tone grim. "And it's sure as hell not Davis. Those weapons, they're not human." Niran's mouth went dry. "Then who? Who else would attack the mine?" Zorak shook his head, his mind racing through the possibilities. "I don't know. But whoever they are, they're good, really good. The GLF are tough bastards, but it sounds like they're getting their asses handed to them." As if to punctuate his words, a particularly loud explosion rocked the bunker, showering them with dust and debris. Niran coughed, waving a hand in front of his face to clear the air. "We need to find out what's going on," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to find us." Zorak nodded, his expression thoughtful. He reached into a battered pack and pulled out a tangle of wires and circuitry. "I might have an idea," he said, his fingers already working to assemble the makeshift device. "I've been tinkering with this old comm unit, trying to boost the signal. If we can tap into the right frequency, we might be able to pick up some chatter, figure out who's up there and what they want." Niran watched fascinated as Zorak worked. In a matter of minutes, the device was assembled, a jumble of mismatched parts held together with a prayer and a bit of luck. Zorak flipped a switch, and the unit crackled to life. At first there was nothing but static, a harsh white noise that filled the bunker. But then, through the haze of interference, a voice emerged. "HFY Nightingale, distress signal. Heavy resistance, unknown hostiles, requesting backup." Niran's eyes widened. "The Nightingale, isn't that a human ship?" Zorak nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Not just any human ship, that's Special Forces, the best of the best. If they're here, it means the humans have a stake in this fight." Niran leaned back, his mind reeling. But why now? What could have brought them here after all this time? Zorak's gaze turned distant, his thoughts racing. "I have a theory," he said, his voice low and intense. "Remember what I told you about Davis's mission? The one he was on when his daughter died? What if that mission was connected to this place?" Zorak continued. "What if whatever the humans were after, whatever Davis was searching for, is here, buried beneath the mine?" Niran's breath caught in his throat. "And if Davis finds out, if he learns that the key to his daughter's death is here?" Zorak met his gaze, his expression grim. "He'll tear this place apart. He won't stop until he has the truth, no matter the cost." The weight of their situation pressed down on Niran, the full scope of the danger they faced crashing over him like a tidal wave. They were caught in the middle of a war they didn't understand, with forces beyond their control converging on the mine. But in that moment, as the sounds of battle raged above and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, Niran saw a glimmer of hope, a chance, however slim, to make things right. "Then we need to find it first," he said, his voice steady with newfound resolve. "We need to uncover the truth, and when Davis comes, we need to be the ones to give it to him. It's the only way we'll survive this, the only way to make amends for what we've done." Zorak nodded, a fierce determination burning in his eyes. "Then that's what we'll do. We'll find the secret buried beneath this mine, and we'll use it to buy our redemption, no matter the cost." With hearts pounding and adrenaline coursing through their veins, Niran and Zorak stepped out from the shadows of the bunker, their eyes squinting as they adjusted to the dim light of the battle-scarred corridors. The once deafening sounds of combat had faded, leaving an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional distant rumble of an explosion. As they crept forward, picking their way through the debris-strewn hallways, they rounded a corner and froze. Before them stood a squad of human soldiers, their weapons trained on the two aliens with unwavering precision. Niran's breath caught in his throat, his hands instinctively rising in surrender as he met the steely gaze of the lead soldier. "Don't shoot!" Niran called out, his voice trembling despite his best efforts to keep it steady. "We're not with the GLF. We have information about the mine, about what's really happening here." The lead soldier, a grizzled veteran with a jagged scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the two aliens. "And why should we trust you?" he asked, his tone laced with suspicion. "For all we know, you could be leading us straight into a trap." Zorak, his posture tense but his voice calm, took a step forward. "Because we know about Davis, about his daughter, and about the mission that brought him to this sector all those years ago. We were there, on the day she died. We're the ones responsible." The soldier's eyes widened, his grip tightening on his weapon as the weight of Zorak's words sank in. You're the ones who killed the butcher's daughter?" Niran nodded, guilt and regret etched into every line of his face. "We didn't know who she was, what her death would mean. We've been running ever since, trying to stay one step ahead of Davis's vengeance." As Niran and Zorak began to recount their tale, the soldier listened intently, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. When they finished, he drew in a deep breath, as if steeling himself for the storm that was to come. "If you're right about what's hidden beneath this mine," he said, his voice grave, "then we have a bigger problem than just Davis's vengeance. If that technology falls into the wrong hands, it could mean the end of everything we've fought for, everything we've sacrificed to protect." Niran leaned in, desperation etched into his features. "Then let us help you. We know this mine, we know the GLF. We can guide you to the heart of the complex, help you secure whatever it is that's hidden there." The soldier nodded, a flicker of hope sparking in his eyes. "And what about Davis? What happens when he finds out you're here?" Zorak met the soldier's gaze, his expression resolute. "We'll face him together. We'll tell him the truth about what happened to his daughter, about the mission he was on. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to make things right, not just for him, but for all of us." As the soldier gathered his men and prepared to move out, Niran and Zorak exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the perilous path that lay ahead. They knew that every step they took from this moment forward was fraught with danger, that the ghosts of their past and the uncertainty of their future would dog their every move. But they also knew that they had no choice but to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. The team surged forward, Niran and Zorak leading the charge alongside the human soldiers. They fought their way through the winding corridors of the mining complex, their weapons flashing in the dim light as they cut down the remnants of the GLF forces. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and the coppery tang of blood, but they pressed on, driven by a shared sense of purpose and the knowledge that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Finally, they reached the heart of the complex, a vast chamber hewn from the living rock, and there at its center stood the artifact, a pulsing mass of energy and light that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. The team approached cautiously, their eyes wide with wonder and trepidation. But before they could secure the artifact, a figure emerged from the shadows, his presence commanding the room. It was Craig Davis, the butcher of Zargan Prime, his eyes blazing with a potent mix of grief, rage, and determination. Niran and Zorak stepped forward, ready to face the man they had wronged, to offer their apologies and their aid. One of the soldiers, a grizzled veteran with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, his voice cautious. "Sir, these aliens have helped us secure the artifact. They've risked their lives to make things right. Surely that counts for something." Davis turned to the soldier, his expression unreadable. "You don't understand this artifact, this technology. It's what my daughter died for. It's what I've been searching for all these years. With this, we could change everything. We could rewrite history itself." Niran's eyes widened, a sudden realization dawning. "That's why you sent your daughter on that mission. You knew about the artifact, about its power. You thought she would be safe, that her humanitarian work would provide cover for the search." Davis nodded, his voice heavy with emotion. "I was wrong. I underestimated the dangers, the forces that would stop at nothing to possess this technology. And now, because of my arrogance, my daughter is gone, and the fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance." Zorak stepped forward, his voice filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "Then let us help you, Davis. Let us atone for our mistakes, for the pain we've caused. Together, we can ensure that your daughter's sacrifice was not in vain, that the artifact is used for good, not for conquest or destruction." Davis was silent for a long moment, as if weighing the sins of the past against the possibilities of the future. Finally he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't forgive you, not yet, but I can work with you to honor my daughter's memory and protect the galaxy she fought so hard to save. But know this, if you betray me, if you use this technology for your own gain, I will hunt you down to the ends of the universe, and there will be no mercy, no second chances." Niran and Zorak exchanged a glance, the weight of Davis's words hanging heavy in the air. They knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, that the scars of the past would never truly heal. But they also knew that they had a chance, however small, to make things right, to forge a new future from the ashes of their mistakes. As they stood side by side, human and alien, united in purpose if not in trust, they could only hope that the sacrifices they'd made, and the battle still to come, would be enough to redeem them in the eyes of the galaxy, and in the haunted gaze of the man they once called enemy. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The discovery of the artifact had changed everything, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in their hands. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.